Hi, I'm Kevin Alcooney, adult librarian from the Exploration and Creativity Department of the Los Angeles Public Library, and I'm very excited to be presenting today's LAMA program, Theater dybbuk. First, I want to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities, our Library Foundation, and our behind-the-scenes staff for helping bring the LAMA programs to you virtually. LAMA focuses on the diverse landscape of Los Angeles, highlighting the immense artistic and performance talent that has developed in the course of the city's eclectic history. If you'd like to see more of our amazing programs, please visit our online calendar at lapl.org/events. And for our LAMade programs, visit lapl.org/LAMade. Our website also has blog posts that highlight the library's diverse resources and upcoming programs, including Tony Frohoff, a wildlife scientist, advocate, author, and TED speaker with Terramar Research. Join us then as we explore cognition, communication, culture, and conservation of dolphins and whales, and learn about surprising ways in which our abilities to thrive and even survive are deeply interconnected with these denizens of the sea. But now what we've all been waiting for. I'm very excited to introduce today's LAMA program with Theater dybbuk. Henne, the artistic director of Theater dybbuk and storytelling expert, will take you on a journey through your own visions for the future of our planet. In this unique workshop, you will develop and create narratives that express what hopes and lessons you wish to pass on to the generations to come. The session will also help you to process how to best advocate for a healthier world. Take it away, Aaron.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Much appreciated. I'm really glad to be here with everyone, and thanks to LA Made for having Theater dybbuk. This is our third time, I think, with LA Made. In the past, we've done kind of full readings of shows, and this year, in the spirit of the time we're in, we decided to go this direction and do a workshop. So first, welcome everyone, and glad you're with us. A little bit of context for who Theater dybbuk is, who I am, and then what we'll be doing over the course of the next hour. So Theater dybbuk is an organization that creates large-scale theatrical works that we develop over a period of time of 1 to 2.5 years. And we do this. We do workshops for community members and for professionals to help them think about how to tell story effectively. And so today, in the spirit of what LA Made has been exploring over the summer about sustainability, about stewardship of the planet, we decided to do a workshop that would help you to dive into your own thoughts and feelings and concerns and hopes for the future of this world. And so over the course of the next hour, we will be doing some writing together, and you'll get a chance to kind of write out your thoughts and imagine a world. And you will also get a chance to think about how you take that writing and maybe use it in other forms. So a couple other things I'll say before we get started. First, if you're watching this live, there will be some opportunities to put comments in, to ask questions, that kind of thing. So I'll invite that. And if you're watching this later on, I just invite you to participate as fully as you can. Also, there will come a point where I will encourage you to write. So it may help to have something to write with next to you, a pen and a pad, or you can pull up a doc on your computer and start there, whatever works best for you. And I also want to say, if for some reason you're not feeling writing, you can use this as a kind of meditation to think about the subject and to just be present. And, you know, as I mentioned at the top, we do this all the time. We work with communities to help them process things in their communities and turn those into stories. So I'm hoping this will be of use to our beloved Los Angeles community. So thanks again to LA Made and the LA Public Library. All right. So the first thing I want to do before we start is let's just get present and be here. You know, sometimes we sit down to write or create, and we may be being pulled by other things that are happening around us. And how do we allow ourselves to be in the moment so that we can really express what needs to be expressed? So I'm going to start with just a little bit of landing, kind of breathing meditation, and then we're going to dive into the creation. So here we go. First, what I would like you to do is, wherever you're sitting, or if you're on your bed, whatever, you know, we're all in different places, just find yourself in a position that allows you to be here comfortable, but also kind of with us. And if your feet are on the ground, I encourage you first, if you want to close your eyes, go ahead. It's not expected. So first, if you want to, go ahead and put your feet on the ground if you are seated. If you're on your bed, that's fine. Just imagine them there. And we hold a lot of tension in our feet. So go ahead and actually let those feet spread out, you know, kind of let the toes splay out. Trust that the floor, the bed, or wherever you are has you and is supporting you. You don't have to do any work. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Good. And now, imagine that any tension in your arches is going. Just let it float out. Kind of imagine that your feet are like becoming like just a little bit of foam floating on a sea. And take that same sense of letting go and loosening into your ankles. And if it helps, you can kind of spin your ankles around one direction and then the other. And that same sense of loosening into your lower legs, your shins and your calves, and into your knees. And I'm kind of sitting here. I'm going to move my knees around. So if you see me moving, you can join me in it. Into your thighs. You know, it's funny. We hold tension in our thighs. It's like we don't trust that, you know, they can hold up our bodies. So go ahead and whatever will help you to imagine that your thighs are just letting go. And in your hips, you can swing your hips around. No one can see you. It's just between you and the walls that surround you. And that same sense of loosening, let it go into your stomach. You know, even when we're in private, we sometimes hold our stomachs. What is it to just let it go? And your lower back, that same sense. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now into your kind of center, back and front, and into your chest. And if you're somebody who holds your chest out, what is it to let it sink? And if you're somebody who it sinks, what is it to hold it out? Just to change your relationship to where you've been and space. And that same sense of loosening into your shoulders, it helps to spin your shoulders. You can do like I am, front and back. And that sense of loosening down into your upper arms, your elbows and your lower arms and your wrists. You can even spin your wrists around, your fingers. And that sense of loosening, let it just fly back up into your shoulders and now into your neck. Again, you may find it helpful to move your neck around. Into your chin. You can just imagine, let your lip kind of float down. It's all right. And your upper lip and your cheeks, let it go soft. Even your nose, imagine that it's just kind of there. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to hold it in any way. You don't have to imagine. That's just the case. And into your eyes, maybe let them go just a little soft if they are open. Into your forehead. Top of the head. And imagine at the top of your head that any tension that's left just kind of floats out the top. Saying goodbye to it. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Okay. I always start there because who knows where we've been, who knows what we're carrying. And I want to say too, if you've not been in touch with your breath or your body all day, that might have calmed you down, but it may have actually stirred something up, and that's also okay. Wherever you are for this act of creation is just great and fine. All right. So now we're going to transition and we're going to start thinking about this subject of sustainability, stewardship, taking care of the planet, imagining and envisioning a better future. And so the first thing I would like you to do is think for yourself, and you might want to get out that pad and pen if you're working with one, or pull up the document I mentioned. Think for yourself about what you think a challenge or opportunity is in this world connected to the planet, connected to care of nature, connected to sustainability. And for some of you, this challenge might be something very large, right? Like climate change as a big challenge. Consumption, overconsumption as a big challenge. The way in which money is allocated to things and maybe not enough to our planet, however you view that, big challenge. Or you might be really specific. Like, I think my community doesn't have enough green space, right? Or my family's relationship to taking care of the planet is not where I think it should be. So I'd like you to take now 30 seconds of silence to identify for yourself a challenge you see in our world, either very specific or large, and maybe more all encompassing, that speaks to this issue of sustainability, care for the planet, and on. 30 seconds of silence to identify for yourself one challenge you see. Fifteen more seconds. Five more seconds. Good. Now, no pressure here. I encourage you to write down for yourself the challenge that came up. You may have had multiple ones that came up. That's totally fine. But make some notes for yourself about what's the challenge that really rose to the top, or the general area of challenge that you identified, and go ahead and write it down. And if you could, if anyone is watching live and wants to put that challenge in the chat, you are more than welcome to. You are hearing, here I am in beautiful Silver Lake, you are hearing the sounds of the street. So this is the moment. So what I would like you to do, though, is if you could go ahead and put that challenge in the chat if you are watching live, and if you're experiencing this later on, just keep it for yourself. Thank you. Cool. Now, what I would like you to do next is think about a vision you have for how we might overcome that challenge, right? In other words, what might it look like if we have either overcome or worked with that challenge? So identified a specific one, like my community doesn't have enough green space. Maybe you imagine a future of parks in your community with community members outdoors and participating together. If you identified a big challenge like climate change, maybe your vision is a future where we have held the line where we are and we're all moving more mindfully through this world, right? So it could be kind of large and encompassing, or it could be really specific about a vision you see that is the other side of this challenge, the way in which it could be good, hopeful, turn out well. I'm going to leave 30 seconds for you to identify that for yourself. A vision for the future that deals with, overcomes this challenge, or turns it into something better. 30 seconds of silence. Fifteen seconds. Five more seconds. Cool. And same thing as before, write this down for yourself somewhere if you are writing. How would you describe this in a sentence or two, this vision you have for a better future that deals with or overcomes with or integrates this challenge and finds a way to work with it? What is that vision in just a sentence or two? And again, if you're somebody who's willing to, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'm seeing one or two come in. I want to declutter and give away what I don't need. Yeah. Thank you. That's a great example. And procrastination is another example I heard. That is a step on the way. Absolutely. I hear you. I think many of us, that is part of the challenge. Cool. So now I want to do one more step of this, and this is just the opening. All right. We're going to do a little deeper writing in a moment. So we've identified a challenge. We've identified some vision. Now what I would like you to do is think about what might be a way that you could help work towards that vision. And we've heard a few already. We heard end procrastination, right? That's a way I have to change something in me to help achieve a vision. So for example, if I have a vision of lots of green space in my community, right? That's the example I gave. Maybe I identify one thing I need to do is speak to my local representative, right? What's one thing I need to do to help make this happen? Or if I have a vision of a future where we've held the line on climate change and we're finding a way to improve the world and be more mindful, maybe I say how we get there as we encourage some kind of mindful programs from our community that help us to do so, right? Whatever it may be for you, what is one thing that could happen, either personally from you or for the community in general, that could help to achieve your vision? Just one thing. I gave you a few examples. It could be really personal. I need to do this. I need to talk to my family about consumption. Or it could be something you see the world doing. 30 seconds. One step towards achieving a vision. One thing you or the community could do. 15 seconds. Five more seconds. And again, write this down if it's helpful. I want to call a friend and encourage them to do what I'm doing to take care of plastics in my house. I see our world doing this to help change. I need to call my representative. Whatever it may be for you, what is that one thing? Go ahead and write it down for yourself. And if you're so inclined, you can share it in the chat if you are watching this live. Cool. See somebody chatted, reach out more to my neighborhood. Yeah, right. Changing this world, making it better, more sustainable is a communal activity. We need to be willing to take the steps that are needed. So thank you for that comment. Cool. And again, as these occur to you, feel free to put them in the chat. All right. So now we're going to move to the kind of main activity. And I want to say a word too for those who are watching that, as you heard at the beginning, a lot of what I do is storytelling, coaching, and I have an expertise in that area. So I really view this as a double workshop, which is we are going to be thinking about our visions for the future. And it's a story workshop where I may help you to think about your own writing and how even after this workshop, if you want to write about other things, you can use some of the techniques I'm offering. So there's a few things going on here, and I hope to help you in those areas. All right. So what we just did was a little opening of identify a challenge in our world, identify a vision for the future, identify a step that might need to be taken to achieve that vision. Keep that in mind as you're doing this writing, and you may find that what I'm about to help you with, you directly speak about what you just wrote, or you might go a different direction. Up to you. All right. So I want you to think about for yourself, if you were imagining a world that is better, that the things you're concerned about in nature, in your community, in terms of making sure people and the planet are taken care of. Imagine a world that is improved in the areas that are that are especially of concern to you. And you just identified one challenge and one vision. And we are about to do a piece of writing that is a letter from a future where things have improved. So I want you to first identify, how far in the future do you want to go? Do you want to go 50 years in the future? I want to imagine generations down the line and a more hopeful world for them and what that might look like. Do you want to go 20 years in the future? Seems pretty far off, but I can actually picture it, right? It seems kind of in the realm of something I can imagine fully. Do you want to go 5 years in the future where you say, I know the change won't be as big, but I want to imagine a world that's more hopeful in 5 years, working towards sustainability and towards good stewardship of our planet. So first thing I would like you to do is take just a moment and identify for yourself, how far in the future do you want to go? 100 years, 50 years, 20 years, 5. Just identify it right now. Don't think about it too hard. This is a writing exercise for you. So if you decide later, oh, I wish I'd done X amount of time, you can do it again. So go ahead, and if you're taking notes, go ahead and just write down 5 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, whatever you imagined. Great. Now, I would like you to imagine who you might want to communicate to about this better world and how we got there to this better situation. This might be great-great-grandchildren, right? This might be your own self in 20 years that you want to explain how we got there. This might be your own self now, or to someone now saying, hey, the world is better, and let me tell you what you need to do to make it so. This could be a friend. This could be a community member. This could be a colleague. So imagine 50 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever you chose, if you were writing a letter to somebody to tell them about this world that you see, this better world, and how you got there, who are you writing to? Again, is it a child of a child of a child that you want to explain how it happened? Or is it somebody right now that you want to give them the roadmap for how to get there? Take 20 seconds to choose who you are writing to. Cool. Write it down just for yourself so you know that's who I'm writing this letter to. Cool. Okay. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through a little visualization that will help you imagine what you're going to tell this person about the world you're imagining, why it's more sustainable, why it's better, and how we got there. What are you going to tell them? And again, it may be directly connected to the challenge and to the vision you already named at the very beginning of this workshop, or it may be something new. So I invite you, we're in that comfortable space, feet on the floor, shoulders rolled, all of that good stuff. I invite you to close your eyes if you find it helpful, if you're somebody who that will help you to envision. And I'm going to move you through a visualization before we do a little writing. Okay. First, I want you to picture the person or persons you are writing to so that you know who your audience is, because they are specific. And whoever that is, you may write to them in a different way. How old are they? What do they know about the world? Maybe what kind of temperament they have. Are they open? Are they a little closed? And you have to pry that open, right? Pry them open. What is that for you? Who are their parents? Who are their friends? How do they view the world? Hopefully. Are they optimistic? Are they a little cynical? What's their name? If they have a name, it might be a group of people. So it might just be the cousins, or it may be somebody specific. Cool. Now, I want you to picture this world that you say has gotten better, that has improved, that some challenge has been met, and in some way it's better, more sustainable. It might be, again, in 5 years, and it's just about your community. It's very specific. Something happened in our community that made a huge difference. Or it might be 50 years down the line and a vision for the city or the county or the planet. Think about that world or that place and time. What makes it more sustainable? What makes it more fulfilling? What does the air smell like? How are people interacting? What do the streets look like? How are people using things? Plastic, not plastic. What are they driving? Are they not driving? Is there more public transport? Is there more peace? Is there less economic disparity? What about this world makes it better? And again, it may be many things, or it may be one thing you're really focused on. That green space I mentioned earlier, that might be just the one thing you want to focus on, or it may be a much larger vision for all the ways this world is better. Again, I'm going to leave 30 seconds of silence because I want you to really live in this world and think about what's it look like, feel like, smell like, sound like, and why is this better? Why is this the world we are working towards? And why is it worth achieving? 30 seconds. Just 10 more seconds on this part. And now that you can maybe explain why this world is better, or this situation or this community has improved, I want you to think about what it took to get there. How did we get there? Think about where we are now. What steps needed to be taken to achieve that? Again, if you chose something very specific, it might be, I needed to contact my community members, and then we formed a group, we formed a committee, and then we advocated together, and we made choices to change things in our community, and here's how we did it. If it's much larger about the planet, you may say things about policies and laws that got passed, and maybe how there was large-scale advocacy and people showing up in Washington or showing up in Sacramento and making the case. It might be about all the little things people needed to do, you know, the ways in which they stopped using this or used more of that. It might be about people forming new communities around subjects they care about in order to take care of things. What are the steps that needed to happen in order to achieve this vision? What had to occur? So from where you are now, what had to help? What helped to make that happen? Live 30, 45 seconds for you to kind of live in that. What occurred? Maybe a few details. How did we get there? And then the last part of this visualization, so you have who you're writing to, you have the future you want to tell them about, you have the ways that we got there, the things that needed to happen. What do you want to leave them with? Do you want to encourage them to take action themselves? Maybe you're writing to somebody right now and you're saying, in order to make this happen, I need you to do these things. Maybe you want to encourage them to continue down the path. If it's somebody in the future, you want to say, you're doing it right. Keep going. Don't give up. No, don't fall back. Keep going forward. But there is something specific you want to leave them with, an action to take, a way of thinking, a way of being, that you want to make sure they get from this letter you are writing. What is that? What do you want to leave them with? You see this, somebody wrote to us, making time to take actions that directly impact achievement. I like that. You want to leave them with that, this idea of making time to take the proper actions. Cool. You can open your eyes if they've been closed. All right, here's what we're going to do now. For the next few minutes, I'm actually going to have you do some writing. And again, if you're somebody who's not in a writing mood, this is your time to kind of sit in it, because the next step is going to be how to turn this kind of imaginative writing into a piece of advocacy, a way that we can communicate in the here and now to people about the things we care about. So here's what I'd like you to do. Open that sheet of paper again if you're writing, or that doc. And I would like you to, you know who you're writing to, at the top of the page, write "Dear so-and-so," whoever that person or persons is that you already identified. And then right under that, write a first line to your letter. And I'm going to help you with this. The first line to your letter could be starting with the future, right? It's a beautiful world. We have a beautiful community. What an amazing park. The way our community has come together is amazing. You might start there. Your letter might start with looking back to now and saying, I know in 2021 there were real challenges. So what is your first line of your letter? So write "Dear" and whoever you're writing it to, and then just a first line of your letter. Don't think about it too hard. First thing that comes out. Go for it. 20 seconds. Five more seconds. Cool. I know some of you might still be writing. Great. I'm going to give the next step. Skip about a page. Go to the bottom of your page. So if you're on a Word doc or something, hit all those returns. If you're writing, just skip to the bottom of the page. And I would like you to write a last line to your letter. And that's why it's really important to me that you speak to your neighbors about, their consumption, etc. Right? And so I'm really grateful that you took the steps you needed to take with your community to get us all here. Right? Whatever the last line is, that thing you want to leave the person with, what is it? Go ahead and write that now. Where do you want to leave your reader, the person receiving this letter, the last sentiment you want to give them? You can change it later, by the way, if it winds up not feeling right. But for now, first instinct, last sentiment, last thing you want to say in the letter, and then a sincerely or warmly or with gratitude, however you want to end your letter. 30 seconds, last lines. Go for it. Fifteen more seconds. Cool. So I want to say a word before we do the next step of this writing, which is if you are somebody interested in writing and storytelling, this is like magic. This is what I do when I teach storytelling. It's also what I often do when I write, which is I first visualize, then I write down a first and a last line and then fill in the middle. Because what happens is a few things. One is by visualizing first, I'm not facing a blank page. I've already created in my head, I've already moved through some of the things that I need to say or consider. And then I'm merely transcribing that which already exists. So in your head, you already pictured who you're speaking to. You already pictured this future you envision. You already pictured the steps to get there lightly. So when you face this page, you're not starting from scratch. It already exists and you are merely bringing it out into the light. Two, by providing a first and a last line, you have a container. It's the old, if you ever played in a sandbox as a kid, you have a sandbox so that you can build a castle. And this is your sandbox. You know that you have a structure to operate within. Great. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take just 5 minutes of relative silence. I may chime in once in a while to help you and tell you how much time is left. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my clock. And your job is going to be to fill in between the beginning and the end. Now, it's only 5 minutes. So some of you may opt to just take bullet points and say, I want to finish this later and really write this letter. But for now, I'm just going to do a quick outline of what do I have to say. For some of you, you're really going to start the letter and just get as far as you do and know that at the end of the workshop, you can complete it more fully if you like. So use whatever writing structure works for you, outline, bullet points, or really writing the letter. But I'm going to leave 5 minutes of relative silence other than time checks so that you can have some time while you're here with others in this video experience to do the creation. So 5 minutes of silence. I'm here with you. If any questions arise, please use the comment section and I will do my best to answer them. Thanks. 5 minutes starting now. About 3 minutes left. 2 minutes have gone. About 3 minutes left. And as you're writing, if you're struggling at all with writing, remember details are always helpful. Sights, smells, sounds, particulars, and or feelings. How did something make you feel as you picture this journey to a more hopeful world? What feeling does it impart? You can express that as well. So specifics of actual places and spaces and other points of reflection, visuals, or the particulars of feelings, how something felt can be really helpful. It's about another minute and a half. About one more minute. 10 more seconds. Ah, the beautiful sound of the bells. So before we move on to a next step, I want to say for some of you, you may have written the whole letter. For others of you, you barely scratch the surface and you're saying, I want to do more, I want to do more. But I want to say a word about, so certainly later on, do more if you feel like, wow, I only really got so far, but I like this exercise and I want to dig into this. By all means, use this as a template, as an outline to continue the work. This kind of exercise can also be really helpful for identifying the kind of actions one wants to take for oneself, right? I'm writing a letter to myself of encouragement, of vision, and how to get there. And so you can also use it for that form, both about this subject matter and about others. It can really be inspiring to picture a future that looks away, that feels right to you, and to picture what it would take to get there, and then to allow yourself the space to help yourself understand that so that you can take the next right actions. So, all right. Now, I will share that, sometimes I've done events where we then have actors read these stories, right? So I will say I've seen people use these in storytelling events. So hold on to this writing, and there may be an opportunity to share it in the future, which you might really enjoy and your community might really enjoy as well. So I want to ask if there's anyone who has either a first line or a last line from your letter or something else you wrote that you want to put in the chat. Let's take 10 seconds. I encourage you to do that now. Sometimes it's fun to hear what's on the minds of the community. And I know we may have many people watching this later, so if none come in, that's okay. But if anyone would like to share a line from what they wrote, first line or last line or anything in the middle, go ahead and share that now. And as we wait for these to come in, I'll keep talking just to allow the space for it. And I'll read them if they do come in. And if you are watching this later on, even if you don't want to share a whole story with somebody, identify the line or two that you think is really interesting, that might spur you on, and you can share it with others in your community. All right. So I want to now talk about advocacy. You just imagined a vision of the future, and you thought about the steps it would take to get there and how you communicate it. Now, that is a beautiful piece of imaginative writing that you can keep with you and you can use in the ways I expressed. But it can also serve as the basis for how you think about sharing about what you care about and enacting change. So I'll give you an example. Imagine that somebody wrote a letter, you may have written one, about the challenge of climate change and the vision of the future of again having improved that and working towards a better world and the steps that would need to be taken there. And you go, there's one step in there that is local that needs to be taken that I want to advocate for. How do I do that? Right? How do I do that? And here are some great steps for how you can advocate for this vision or a change you want to make. So first is you want to identify who your constituent is. Who are you advocating to? There's a representative I need to speak to about an idea I have. I want to talk to my family about how we're interacting with consumption and doing things, in our household. I want to talk to a friend about something I noticed, and I actually want to learn more from them. They're doing it really well, and I want to take a similar step, and I want to pull out the information from them. So who am I speaking to, right? So first thing is to identify who am I speaking to. The next is to begin with the why. Begin with the challenge or opportunity. Often, when we want to advocate for somebody, we go right to the solution. For something, we go right to the solution. We say to somebody, you know what I think would be great if we could do? We go to a representative and say, I would like you to pass this bill. But what if we begin with the challenge or opportunity? We say, here's what's going on in our community. Here's what's going on in our world. I notice that our students are undereducated around this subject about sustainability, right? That's a challenge you can express. I'm giving one example. There's many. So you start with the why we should care. What is the thing that needs addressing? Then move into the qualification. Why am I the one talking to you? Maybe I'm a constituent in your district. Maybe I'm talking to you because you're my friend or colleague. And I want to say to you, hey, we're in this together. So first I start with the challenge, and then I move into the who am I? Why are we having this conversation? Then I move into the vision, right? I say, we've got this issue of a lack of education in this subject matter around something in our community connected to renewal. And I say, I'm in this community, so I care about it. And then I say to you, but I see a future where our students actually know about this subject around renewal, around caring for their community. Imagine that future. Imagine how wonderful it would be and what it would mean for our local neighbors, right? And then the last thing I end with is what some people call a call to action or an invitation, where this is your chance to say to that person, and because I've told you what the challenge is, I've told you why I'm in this conversation with you, I've given you a vision, I'm now asking something of you. I am inviting you to participate in helping to make it happen. This is the part where sometimes you say to somebody, so what I'd like you to do to make this happen is this. This is sometimes where you say to somebody, so what do you think? I want to hear your thoughts on this, because then you're opening a conversation, right? So I'm pointing this out because you've just written a letter that envisions a better future, that has steps to get there. Now, how do you take that vision and speak to somebody about getting on board with it? And you begin by saying, here's the challenge I see. This is the world we're in. And then eventually you say, but this is the world we could be in. And then you say, join me, right? So I'm pointing this out because this letter could be the basis for what's to come. This letter could be the basis for the conversation you need to have with a family member or friend, right? So I just want to take a moment in these last few minutes before we kind of bring this to a close. And I would like you to, it's all theory until we actually do the work. I would like you to identify one person you might want to advocate to something for. A family member, a colleague, like I said, somebody in the government. I mean, it could be anything. Somebody you want to speak to about sustainability, about achieving that goal you set out. Who might you want to talk to? You may have already identified them in the letter. Take a moment and identify who that person is. Now, given what you know about that person or persons, how might you tell them about the challenge that you see that needs addressing? So, for example, if you know there's somebody who cares about kids, you might focus on the child aspect of the challenge. If you know there's somebody who cares about your local neighborhood, you might focus on that aspect of the challenge. So identify how you would express the challenge to them. An example of this is that a challenge could be, we don't have enough green space in this part of the community, as I'm returning to what I said at the beginning. But if I know you're somebody who cares about kids, I'm going to begin with the challenge of, our children don't have a place to play. There isn't enough green space for them to play. But if I know you're somebody who just cares about the local community broadly, I might say, there's not enough green space for our community to interact, right? So I am keeping in mind who I'm speaking to and tailoring it. So that person you pictured, how might you tailor it? And now, identify what vision you would give them about how this would change. And again, this is specific to them. So if it's somebody who cares about children in the neighborhood, the vision you might give is a vision of the kids being in this green space together. But again, the person who cares about the community at large in a variety of other ways, you might give a different vision to them. What vision do you share to this person? Take a couple notes right now, really quickly, for whoever this person is. And lastly, what is it you want from them? Or what are you inviting from them? Are you inviting a conversation? I want to talk to you about that. Are you inviting them to help you make something happen? What's the invitation? What are you leaving them with? So this is a structure for how you turn your story of a future into a piece of conversation. You are with somebody and you are saying, here's what's going on, here's the challenge, here's the opportunity, join me. So the last thing I would like you to do is in this last minute, as you look at this letter you wrote, is there anything that even in your little brief outline is left out that you feel like, if nothing else, I want to make sure I say this. I don't think I said that. This detail, this sentiment. Often in this last minute, something comes up where you're like, I wish I'd written that. Take a moment now, write it down, 20 seconds. Just 5 more seconds. Cool. So the last thing I want to leave you with before I turn it back over to the wonderful LA Made team is, as you think about creating your own writing and pieces of both imagination and hope that could turn into reality, I want you to just notice the structure we did, because I mentioned at the top I would help you think about how you do this. We began with centering. Where are we? Breathing, getting into our bodies. We then moved into a kind of warm-up where we thought about the subject matter, the challenges, the opportunities, right? But we weren't yet doing the main work. We then got into the main work of the writing. And we envisioned before we wrote, and we wrote a first line, the last line. And then we thought about how we take that writing and turn it into something else. So if you notice, we didn't dive right into the writing. We took a few steps before we got there. So when you are doing work, the idea of slowing down to speed up, allowing yourself space to imagine before creation so that you can show up more fully for it, I find is a really helpful tool for any of this kind of activity. So thank you so much. Again, I'm Artistic Director of Theater Dybbuk. We do a lot of workshops like this. And we also, as I said, create large-scale theatrical works that explore issues in our world, where we actually do a group creation process, a group development process, doing shows over 1 to 3 years. And hopefully we'll get a chance in the coming time when we're back in some in-person activities to share some of that with you. And I want to thank LA Made for just your great work in the library, for the great work in this city, and for having us back. And it was such a pleasure. Thanks so much. Kevin, back over to you.
Thanks so much for a really thoughtful workshop. Really, really great stuff. And thank you, audience, for joining us for today's LA Made program. Remember to check out the library's online calendar at lapl.org/events. Please join the Summer Reading Challenge, where you can collect points for reading and completing fun, learning-based activities. Go to lapl.org/summer for more information and to register. And don't forget to join us on Thursday, July 22nd at 4 p.m. for Vain Million Kuhn, as she walks you through a simple yet colorful meal that is packed with fresh produce and greens from the garden that may be enjoyed any time of day. A perfect opportunity to get the family involved and be creative together. Eating should be fun, and if most of us eat with our eyes, then why not make it beautiful? So join us for that program as well. We truly appreciate all your support. See you next time. Thank you.